Most people think that they could recognize a cult immediately. Something extreme, something obvious, something off. But that assumption is exactly what makes high control groups effective, because they rarely present themselves as dangerous at the beginning. They present as opportunity, belonging, purpose. Welcome back to Secret Societies, Cults, and Coffee. I'm your host, and today we're moving beyond definitions and into the mechanics. Because if you really want to understand cults, you have to understand how they work from the inside. Not just what they believe, but how they build control. Stay tuned. There are organizations that shape history and others that operate just outside of it. Some are built on tradition, philosophy, and brotherhood. Others are driven by control, belief, and influence. And somewhere in between is a line most people never think to question. Welcome to Secret Societies, Cults, and Coffee. I'm your host, George Turner. Here, we take a look at the world's most secretive organizations, from centuries-old fraternal societies to modern, highly manipulative and controlling groups, to the stories that blur the line between myth and reality. So, whether you're here for the history or just a strong cup of curiosity, you're in the right place. Grab some coffee and let's get into it. Before we go deeper, we need precision. In everyday language, cult is used loosely. But in analytical terms, we're talking about something very specific. A high control system centered around authority, identity, and dependency. Not all cults look the same. Some are religious. Some are ideological. Some present as self-improvement programs or even business opportunities. But the structure, the underlying mechanics, tend to follow consistent patterns. Cults don't recruit people by offering control. They recruit by offering solutions. Solutions to isolation, lack of direction, emotional distress, desire for meaning. And the approach is rarely aggressive. It's often subtle, friendly, and personal. The initial experience at the beginning, individuals often experience strong affirmation, immediate inclusion, a sense of being understood. This is sometimes referred to as love bombing. But it's not random kindness, it's strategic. It creates emotional impact early before critical thinking is fully engaged. Once someone is engaged, the next phase begins. Identity shift. The group doesn't immediately take control. It gradually redefines how you see yourself, how you interpret your past, and what you believe your future should be. Many high control groups develop specialized vocabulary, reframe meanings, internal terminology. Now, this does two things. It creates a sense of belonging and it limits outside understanding. Because once language is controlled, interpretation follows. At the center of most cults is authority, often centralized, sometimes absolute. In many cases, authority is tied to a single figure or even a group, small group that is. These leaders are not just administrators, they become interpreters of the alleged truth, sources of validation, and figures of authority that go beyond normal leadership. In some structures, questioning leadership becomes equivalent to questioning the reality of the individual themselves. This is where the system becomes more defined. Control is rarely applied all at once. It's layered. It's incremental. This can include regular daily routines, controlling relationships, dictating acceptance and acceptable behavior. Information control. Members may be encouraged or even required to limit outside media accessibility, avoid critical perspectives, rely primarily on internal sources. They will control the emotions. This is one of the most powerful mechanisms. It often includes inducing guilt, creating fear of consequences, reinforcing dependency. Fear is particularly effective when tied to loss of community, loss of purpose, or perceived external threats. Over time, these mechanisms lead to a key outcome: dependency, social isolation. This doesn't always mean physical isolation. It can be emotional distancing from outsiders, reframing family or friends as quote unquote negative influences, creating an us versus them worldview. Psychological dependency. Members begin to rely on the group for identity, decision making, validation. At this point, leaving becomes difficult, not just physically, but perhaps psychologically. High control systems often escalate gradually. What begins as meetings and discussions, even shared beliefs, can evolve into increased demands, greater time commitment, financial contributions, personal sacrifices. Each step feels incremental, but over time, the cumulative effort and effect is significant. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects. From the outside, it can seem obvious that someone should just go ahead and leave the group. But from the inside, it's not that simple. Factors that keep people in include emotional investment, social ties within the group, fear of the unknown, belief that leaving equals failure. When actions and beliefs conflict, some people often adjust their beliefs to match their actions. So, the deeper someone becomes involved, the harder it is and becomes to question the whole system. Leaving a high control group is rarely a single moment. It's a process. There are barriers to leaving, such as fear of isolation, loss of identity, and external stigma. After effects. Former members may experience confusion, loss of direction, difficulty trusting new people. Recovery often requires time, empathy, support, and help with rebuilding an independent identity again. Now let's bring this back to your role as a listener, because the goal here is not just understanding, it's recognition. Key questions to ask when evaluating any group. 1. Does it encourage independent thought? 2. Is authority open to questioning? 3. Are members free to leave without consequence? 4. Is information restricted? These questions reveal structure, and structure reveals intent. Cults don't operate on obvious force. They operate on influence, gradual change, psychological reinforcement. And that's what makes them effective. Not because people are weak, but because the system is designed to work. So, as we move forward, remember this. The most powerful systems of control are the ones that don't look like control at all. They look like belonging. So, from this point forward, we'll start to examine real-world case scenarios and apply what we've discussed to understand how these dynamics play out in practice. So, until next time, to find the truth, you may need to take a closer look at what most people overlook. Thank you for listening.